Hi and welcome to What's Not to Like, and today we're considering this game Lancaster, which we were introduced to in the north of England by my brother Phil and his friends Charlie and Ian. And this is a game they really enjoyed, and when I think about why they enjoyed it, well, first of all, to put some background on that group in the north, they love to play games where they can really get immersed in the theme, and they would be more inclined towards simulation games. They might play games about First World War, Second World War, some historic games as well, but usually where there's a little bit more tactical play on a map of some sort. Now, Lancaster doesn't fall into that category at all, but it has got that kind of Kingmaker sort of feel to it, a little bit of background there, and it's got no dice, so it's competitive. However, because of the way that knights can be stacked together to achieve what they want to do by outbidding other opponents, so it's got a nice edge to it, and the thematic game is very strong. So that's one of the great strengths of the game. However, Gary and I found this game to be slap bang in the middle of the Eurogame tradition. It's got some really nice systems, overbidding systems for when you're trying to control the barons, and similarly in controlling the wars in France. You have to develop your knights because the knights are the way you bid, and if you get those strong, you're going to do better in the game. Similarly, you can develop your castle, and the development of the castle will help you to move on in the game, and it's really a bit of a no-brainer because it's got some auto moves that you really want to cash in on through the game. You have to control the parliament and get the laws working the way that you want to, not the way other people want them to work. So lots and lots of different strands of the game working together, pulling in slightly different directions, but overall you're looking for points accumulation. And that's really why Gary and I won so easily, because we're very familiar with this sort of territory, and it's much more of a Euro than it is a simulation. Quite simply, in the case of myself and Gary, we looked initially, I think we didn't need to talk about it, you just look where the victory points are going to be scored, and then you start to see where your competitors are putting their energies and where they're spending their knights, and you duck and weave a bit, and you think, well, if I go there and get into a war with these people, not a literal war, but just a bidding war, I'm going to lose out, so I'll edge my bets into this area here for a while, and then when you do need to make a critical move, you try and really do that emphatically so that you're not again involved in a bidding war. It's familiar territory, as I say, and Gary and I did very well. I think the northern Ragnars, on the other hand, I do really feel, with that particular type of game, they're enjoying the game in a different way to Gary and I. They're kind of living the game more. They embrace the theme. They like the idea of going on wars and doing well with their knights, and I think that's really good, and I think they enjoy the game possibly more than me and Gary do. But unfortunately, it's not necessarily the best way to win a game like that. But it is a really cracking good game. I'd recommend it to anybody. It's a game I've not come across before, so if you get a chance, have a look at it. So when I thought about this game a little bit more, I'm always trying to work out, as a designer, what would I take from that game to bring into a game that we're designing ourselves. Well, I think we'd always recognise the strength of a game that is thematically as strong as this is. So that's something we'd take on board, whatever. But I think as well, the way those friends of ours were trying to engage with that game, and in a sense we're not successfully engaging with that game, wanting to sort of be more involved in the action of the game, perhaps more at a sort of to a more thematic level. Maybe there is something that we should be looking for in our games to bring that in. I hark back to a couple of games in the past. One I played many years ago with a friend who owned this game. It's called English Civil War, and it's fairly straightforward, moving across the table, putting your armies in different positions. But what I really liked about the game was that when you came to a battle, you suddenly took your forces off the map and put them onto a battle board, and you had a little battle with 2 flanks and a central position. And I just thought that gave the game really quite unique feel. And when we were designing History of the World, the very, very, very early versions before we ever produced it, I had the same idea that instead of having lots of dice roll battles on the map and just do it that way, that occasionally you'd bring your forces off the map and you'd have a real battle and see how you got on. The problem with that is that it involves a huge amount of time, and so we had to dump that. But it is something I'm really quite interested in doing, really, is getting the game like a bit of an onion, that you sort of start with the overall layers, it all looks fine on the outside, you peel away a few, but actually you can get really stuck into the middle of the game as well. You can get right down to a micro level almost in a game and have that feel there. It'd be really nice to do, but time-wise, it's a difficult one to manage. The other thing was struck me was that game, I wouldn't say Gary and I knew we were going to win, but we were fairly sure we were doing the right sort of things, and it was quite surprising at the end that Ian thought he was going to win on the last turn. And Gary and I were looking at it, and I'm sure we were both thinking, well, there's no way he's going to win. We can see where our points are going to come from. I wonder how many games there are that kind of disguise if you're winning or not, and how heavily disguised that can be. Now, I know that those people who play Go to a high level, the Chinese game Go, they're able to position their stones in ways that kind of suggest what they're going to do, and analysts looking from the outside are not sure who's winning at all, but really intuitive players can understand how the game is shaping up. I think that's quite an interesting idea, that you can't measure it as such, but you intuitively feel it. And the game that springs to my mind on that is Liberté. If you've never played Liberté, you want to have a go at it, because it just feels quite spookily mysterious at times. You just don't really know if you're doing well or not. It's a Martin Wallace game. It's one of his very, very early ones. And it's something that we don't see very often in games. I know we have games where you're not sure till the end because you're adding up your points, you're not sure who's got the most points, but you still kind of know what you're trying to do. But a game where you're really not sure whether you're on the right strategy at all, or how the game's developing, or is it going to move in a different direction. Maybe a game perhaps where the victory conditions are different at the end to what you anticipated they were going to be, that sort of thing. Quite an interesting area to explore. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed those few thoughts, and catch up with you next time.